course, it's the chief back there who's just got his own little group going. Everybody come up. Tom, Lieutenant Manley. I know, I'm telling you. Men in uniforms, I get all the ladies all the time. All right, hey, listen, my name is Jim Righeimer. I am proud to be your mayor, and I want to thank you for inviting me to the end of one of the nicest cul-de-sacs in Costa Mesa. This is a great street. You should really be proud of it. You know, as soon as you drive in, you see the basketball hoops and all that. You get it. This is the neighborhood, because in areas that people don't get along, we get yelled at in the city about, well, get that hoop off the street. You know, like, it's your neighbor. Talk to them. But obviously, you guys get along pretty well, and you do that. Does this sound okay? Is it echoing?
Kind of reverbish.
It's reverbish, isn't it? Does anyone know how to operate this thing?
You're good.
I'm good. Okay. All right. Listen, the main reason I'm here today is to talk about the issues that we have in the city right now that's overflowing in our city is the group home issues. And there are other issues that are happening here with motels and other things that I'll be glad to talk about, or any other issues you want to talk about. But the one issue that's really kind of coming to head right now throughout our city is the very quickly increasing amount of group homes that are coming into the city. And one of the things I just want to lead off with in talking about the issue of group homes in the city is we need to be respectful of people that are in group homes for whatever reason they're there, okay? We just have to be. I mean, there are issues, there are people going through things in life. In my street where I live, my group home is disabled kids. So there are all different reasons that people may be in them. The issues that the city has to look at is what kind of impacts happen in the neighborhood, and how can we work on making sure those impacts get lessened so that we don't have those problems there. The issue you find very quickly is that the laws at the federal level and the state level do not allow you just to say you can't have those kind of people here, okay? That's not a good thing to say. That's not, we cannot discriminate. So when a group of people live in a house, by state law and federal law, they're allowed to. And if once they go over 6 people, then different rules change. There's different rules whether they're licensed by the state or they're not licensed by the state. There's different rules whether they get services, they get counseling, they get actual treatment of some sort, or whether it's just 6 people living together in a house. So there's different things that we can do. If you've read recently, Newport has been in this fight for a long time. So let me kind of give you a big picture like the United States of America, okay? The group home industry, the drug rehab and alcohol rehab industry, to get away and go someplace is in 2 places in the country, Florida and California. California, it was centered in Newport Beach. So if you're going to get off drugs or get cleaned up or straighten out your life, people leave, they go to a different destination. You don't go to Ohio. You know, where would you rather be? You'd rather be in Newport Beach, California. So a few years ago, we saw a lot of group homes right on the beach, all over the place down in Newport Beach. Newport Beach did a lot of things. They negotiated some agreements with some of the big operators. To kind of bring you up to today, $3.5 million later in legal fees, they are still going in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. It can end up at that level. Right now, they're at the appellate court decision, and their ordinance, which everybody thinks is working, may very well be found to be unconstitutional. It's just there's certain things you can and cannot do in operating with this issue here. They had a recent win that we saw where Morningside Recovery was told to leave their city for violating an agreement. It was not for breaking their ordinance. Morningside Recovery, is part of a negotiated legal settlement a few years ago, agreed to certain things they would do and didn't do those things. So the reason they got knocked out was not because of some great ordinance. And the first thing I get a call from everybody is, well, just do what Newport did. If we could do exactly what Newport did, we'd just do it if we thought it would work. Remember, it's $3.5 million in legal fees already, and they still haven't, finished up there yet. Quite frankly, a lot of cities are waiting to see, and we were one of them until recently, because we can't wait any longer, to see what happened with Newport. Because this is a big, big industry. So if you're in your recovery homes and you're getting services, you can be $1,000 a day, 30 days. You get to see the pretty jets too, at least, right? Jeez. It could be $1,000 a day, $30,000 a month. When you're not getting services, it can drop from that level over there. But this is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And it's like any other industry. They want to protect their industry and make sure they do things right. We want to make sure that they're good neighbors. And so one of the things that you look at in a community is what's called a housekeeping unit. And this is what the road that Newport's going down. So far it seems this part may be working. This is what we're working with our lawyers. But what is a housekeeping unit? And how do you define that? Is it just 6 people living together? Or is it 6 people living together with one lease and then have separate agreements? Are they all there together because they want to be there together, or all there together because they're all getting services at this house? Does their mail come to the house over there? Do they share chores? Do they decide when to come and go? There's all sorts of things you can define into a housekeeping unit, and when you don't do that, you start going on this very fine line of where we can start to enforce things in the city here. So I met the chief and I, and let me introduce some people that are here already because everybody's here. We've got Assistant CEO, Mr. Francis, Rick Francis, right there. Next to him, that good-looking debonair guy over there is our police chief, Tom Gazy. And the other stud over to the left over there is Lieutenant Manley. And then the new kid, I apologize, the new kid on the block is? Ed Santos. And we grow him a little taller as they get here longer, but he'll be, you know. No, if you haven't met our police department, usually when you meet our police department, it's under bad circumstances, right? Something happened, went wrong, or you got a ticket. But we've got some great officers in our city that do phenomenal work in the city and really put out the time and effort to do it. So whenever you see them, give them a wave, let them up, because they're really working extremely hard for our city. You can go ahead and give them a hand. So the issues obviously is group homes. We're going through. We expect to have we have ordinances lined up to go forward. We had some ordinance ready to go last Tuesday. When we went over it with legal counsel over the ordinances, we pulled them. Remember, and I've said this and I'm going to say it again. When we do these ordinances, we are going to be sued. Know that, okay? What we need is support in the community for those lawsuits. I don't want to tell you about politics. You probably read about politics in our city, right? If you know, it always talks about all the litigation we're in and we're always getting sued. Well, I can tell you there's a lot of good reasons why we're in litigation. We're here to protect the fiduciary responsibility to the citizens of this community and make sure your money doesn't go out the window. So we have a lot of fights in here. This is going to be another fight. The community has to back us up on this, because there will be people coming to the microphone every 2 weeks to say, there you guys go again, spending all this legal money. You know, it's going to cost a lot of money. The road that we're going down to solve some things, and I'll talk a little bit about it, but I don't want to give you a strategy out there, but the roads that we're going down are roads that are untested. There is no perfect way to do this. You're in a situation where people have been, by the federal government, looked at to say that they have handicaps. And you can't discriminate, and we're not going to discriminate. But impacts is what we can look at, and how it impacts the neighborhood. So one of the things that we're going to have is a public nuisance abatement ordinance, which will be on the 17th. We'll have the first reading on the 17th. I pulled this one last week because we had issues with it. One of the things that happens whenever we do a law in this city, and I've been involved in other cities for other issues and just in my business life, we're a different city. We're very eclectic. We like how we want to be. And the line that I get every time when we try to make a rule or a law is, what do you think we are, Irvine? We don't want to be Irvine. Okay, I get it. I don't want to be Irvine. I don't live in Irvine. I live here. We like our eclecticness. We like our differences. We like all that. But we need some tools. And so we have to pass some tools and some rules of how we play the game in this city, of how we operate, so that we can use these tools to take care of impacts. When we came up to do a nuisance ordinance just recently, you know, the audience gets full of, you know, what do you think I am? You know, Irvine? You know, we don't want to be that way. Don't tell us what to do. Of which my response is, I don't want to be Irvine, but I don't want to be Wilmington either. Okay? You know, you really can't park your car on the lawn. We're just not doing that here. So understand, we get that hit. In politics, you start losing votes on the dais when people start coming to the microphone and complaining. So what we need is to make sure you show up and say, there's some tools you need. You know, I wish we didn't have to do them maybe, but we need to have some ordinances in here. In this nuisance abatement ordinance, it allows in a legal, methodical process how to find people to stop from doing certain things in an easier, faster, better way than just using what's called code enforcement. It's a longer process. Some of the things that are in here have to do with public nuisances of, deteriorated foundations, roofs coming off of houses, those kind of things. The things that are going to matter to this neighborhood more than anything else is at the end of it, and what we're looking at for nuisances. Any property or use that generates, that could be a house, right, that generates an unusual and significant amount of foot, bicycle, or vehicular traffic or parking shortages, noise, second-hand smoke. I don't know if you've seen it already, but on Bowie, 20 people going across the street, they call it smoke and joke. Everybody's, smoking and joking, and it's not a neighborhood anymore. It's changed. Noise, secondhand smoke, trash in the streets, yards or the sidewalks, yards or on the sidewalks and parkway, blocked driveways, or any other disturbance which interferes with other residences or business owners' quiet enjoyment of the property. A couple things in here: they have to have valid certificates of occupancy and maintain any permitting to conduct the business that can't conflict with state law. Okay, now that's kind of the parts of the meat that are the beginning of the tools that we're going to start having for nuisances. People who's down here, Bowie Street, when I spoke at Bowie Street. I saw a couple of people, 1, 2. Okay, so when I'm down there, there's one house that literally there's like 4 houses work together, and then they have meetings, and just a herd of 10 people go down this way and 20 people go this way, all during the day. So you have your nice little street, and it's just not, it's not a neighborhood. It changes the street. And this is a legal term, but it changed it into an institutional setting. It's not the neighborhood you thought it was. So again, we have to find the distinctions and drill down to get those things in there. So that's going to be coming forth on the 17th. I had so many meetings this morning. Rick, you might have to help me to tell you what else is on the 17th. Also on the 17th, we have for the motels, that's the 17th, the first reading? Quite possibly. Staff, quite possibly. I know Rick will get it done. We have a big problem in the city with motels. So when people can't afford to stay in these houses, they don't want to go back to, like I said, Ohio. It's pretty nice here. You want to stay, and you end up, and usually you get kicked out of a house because you've gone off your drug or alcohol program. That could be one of the reasons. We end up in some of our motels. We get massive problems. People with drug and alcohol problems have no income. They start staying in our motels, which if you ever like a ride along, let me know. We'll get you on one, and you'll be at a motel before the night's over. Everything you can think of happens in these motels. I was reading a report today going through all the issues, the amount of police calls, the prostitution, the drugs, and at the bottom of the report it was 1995. We've tried a lot of things, they're not working, so we're going to try some new stuff. And it's going to be pretty, again, on the line. And what we're looking at is excessive amount of police and fire services at these motels. So of the dozen motels that are in this list, or maybe 11, 2 years ago they had 1,100 calls for service. Okay, 1,100 calls for service. That is, 3-4 calls a day. Last year they had 2,200 calls for service. Okay, 2,200. One of them, the famous Motor Inn on Harbor, had 500 calls. Okay, that's one and a half every day. Now, the chief could give you a whole story on it, and the lieutenant and the officer can tell you, but you're in there for some call, you're knocking on the door, they come out, someone's in the parking lot doing drugs. You're there for 20 minutes and you're hooking up 4 people. And then 3 more cars are coming, and if it's 8 o'clock, your day's kind of shot by the time you do the paperwork. That's an excessive use of services, and people on Bonnie Street shouldn't be subsidizing that. People should pay for their own stuff. Now, the way we're doing this, it's not like it's been done other ways. It's not being done the way we're doing it, but we're going to have a level, and staff's going to come back with a recommendation to say that, depending on the size of your motel, you're allowed so many calls. Because, you need police and fire, nothing wrong with that. But once you go over that level, at a certain point, you're going to get a bill. And the bill's going to say, and we'll have to get a number that we can back up factually, but the number's going to be $200, $220, some number for every call over that. Now, why would we do that? Because these people need to be good neighbors and not operate a place that we have to go police and take care of. 2 calls a day. You shouldn't be subsidizing that here. So again, the problem with the group home is, and especially with drug and alcohol, a lot of people don't get through the program. They don't get through the program, they get kicked out, they don't go back to, New York or wherever they're from. They stay here, they stay in the motels. And listen, again, we have to be compassionate. People that have this, if you, everybody here I'm sure has been touched by drugs and alcohol in their family somewhere or friends. It's horrible. It's something you wouldn't wish on anybody, your worst enemy. So we have to be compassionate about it, but it does have effects in the community. And so what happens is that they end up staying, then they get problems here, then if they can't get money, then people start doing things to get money that ends up having the men in blue. And it's a vicious circle. So that's going to be coming to us on the 17th. We have been working with the Newport's attorneys. We started about 3 months ago. We backed away from them because of some concerns we had about their case going through the court system. We have re-engaged with them, in fact, today, and our city attorney is working with other attorneys that we have for some other language on the other impacts that these houses can do, and back to what I talked about, what a housekeeping unit is and what levels you can do. So with that knowledge of kind of what that, let me tell you where we are in the city of what we know. And Mr. Tucker, we're over here. I call you Mike? Yes. Mike Tucker, I'm sorry. Tom Tucker's a friend of mine, so I just want to call you Tom. Mike handles code enforcement, and this is his -- issue, and he handles all of it, and it's the group homes. And he gave me a report today, which, it's not an enjoyable report, but it is what it is. And when you go through the report, there's different types of facilities. You have residential care facilities, which means they're licensed by the state, and we can't tell them what to do. They can be in there, but again, we can go back to these impacts that we have. We have 32 of those in our city. Okay, we have that's 346 beds out of those. We have an additional residential service facilities where people, once they get out of programs, go to group homes, but don't have, or not supposed to have services or group meetings and all that. We have another 64 with a total of 169 beds. Then we have non-residential facilities, another 17, which means they're in commercial areas, and that we count 76 beds that we have here. I think, is it on the residential care facilities, we're what, 28% of the county, was that?
It's 24%.
So of the whole county, we have 24% of the beds. We're 3% of the population, we're 24% of the beds. Now, we're a compassionate city. We care about people, we want to help. We want to help people from Costa Mesa. We'll even help a little bit more people, but we are not going to be the dumping ground for the county, okay? We have the same issue with the homeless. We care about the homeless. We want to help them get on their feet. We want to work with them the best we can. We will take more than our fair share, but we are not going to be the dumping ground for the county. So with our homeless programs that we're doing out there, you'll notice very quickly that we only give services to people that have a connection to Costa Mesa. They lived here, they went to school here, they worked here. It doesn't have to be the greatest connection, but you can't have come in from Houston last week and now we're going to start giving you services. We don't do that. And we've gotten all the churches to finally agree. I don't know if you noticed, but Lions Park would be, Feeding Central USA. Go down there and get a meal every day, and the churches would show up and they'd hand out meals. And these are all good, solid, church-going people, and we all care about it. But, if you feed somebody breakfast in the morning, they're still hungry at lunch. You haven't changed anything. And so the churches have come around to realize we got to help those people too to do it. But again, we can't do it for everybody, and we cannot be a magnet in there. So that's where we're at with the laws that we have. The one that's coming in about October 1st, I think. We're going to have a study session first on that one, Rick? October 8th, my birthday. Have a study session on that item that the public's obviously can come to, but all the council will be there to go over some of the legal issues of how we can, of what things that we can do. But we need your support in this, because not everybody's going to be in agreement. I mean, there are some people on the council that will probably come around, but they're come from we don't want any lawsuits. Okay, I don't want any lawsuits either. But whatever it costs we have, you know, we redo streets, we redo alleys, we fix up neighborhoods, we do things to make sure that our tax dollars keep the value of our property up and it doesn't go down. If we have to spend $100,000, $200,000, $500,000, $1 million, it doesn't really matter, because the devaluation of real estate and people's homes and property that are very close to these issues, if they have impacts, you can't even count it. It's tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars. So that's why this council, the majority council, and probably the whole council will get on board, especially if you show up, that they're going to be supportive of getting these ordinances going forward to get us tools, and there's going to be some tough roads getting there. So I could go on for a while on this, but I'm sure you probably have some questions about this issue or some other issue. I'd be glad to take them. So anybody out there? Over here.
One thing that Chris, and I live on the street here, Chris sent a note, a bunch of us sent letters. It's just the pure simplicity of running a business out of a home.
Right.
And that's one of the things you haven't really touched upon, because the ordinances and the variances and all the other things are one thing, but if they're running a true business out of a home, there's got to be a way to at least make sure that they get licensed prior to moving in.
Yeah, so his question, if you didn't hear it, was they're running a business. This is a business out of a home. The courts don't look at it that way. The feds don't look at it that way. It is a group of people that have a disability that are there, and you cannot classify as a business. It's obvious to everybody there.
But they're making money, they're profitable.
They're making a fortune, but it's no different, they look at it, than somebody renting out their house. Literally. Because they're a unit, they're together in there. Now we all know, well wait, it's one person, they don't really have a housekeeping unit, so we need to define those things to start getting to the impacts of it. But the most obvious thing is that. Now, we don't, just so you know, the city does not go out there and give, you know, permits to people to do this. They don't need them. It's a house, it's residential, they have disabilities. They can.
Does the city get a tax on the amount of money that they make?
No, not a penny. Not a penny. And in fact, until we...
Isn't it like a hotel tax? Shouldn't you get like a hotel tax?
No. It'd just be like renting out your house. It's not considered, it's called transient occupancy tax. It'd be like renting out your house or having some roommates in your house. We don't charge a tax on that. So we don't get dollars on that. And that question comes up a lot of times, because if you're a normal citizen, you're saying, why isn't the city doing anything about this? And the first thing you say is, oh, they're probably making money. We don't get anything out of it. In fact, until Mr. Tucker really got on board here to really get it, we didn't even know where all the houses were. You knew where the state licensed ones were, but the rest of them have been officers and neighbors calling in, and we're getting our list together. Now, what we do immediately, once we start finding them, code enforcement personnel, Mr. Tucker goes through, and I've got a list of 23 properties. One that happened to have been at 2421 Tustin Avenue. Where's that at? Is that close? Is that over there?
That house.
So they got loitering, traffic, too many clients, 5 contacts, $600 in fines. So we can do those kind of fines, but the money is so big in these things that one of the things that we're looking at in our codes is to move the fines up to $1,000 per issue per day. One of the things that you'll have, Mike, on that one, that one had supposed to have 6 people. How many people were there?
They had 7.
They had 7. So what would be a fair fine for somebody who has an extra person there? $100,000. If you live next door, that would be a fair fine. Okay, don't.
The thing is, are we trying to be good neighbors, or are we trying to keep them from being here altogether?
Okay.
Excuse me, they said they had 12.
They had 12. Okay. So here's the issue. Here's the issue. We cannot discriminate.
Right.
And as a community, we can't talk in a way that we're discriminating, because when we go to court, they don't care about when we pass an ordinance, about what we say at the dais. They say at that public meeting, those people over there said, we don't care how you get rid of them, just get rid of those people. And that's discrimination. So we got to watch our languaging on it, just kind of go up in there. So the point is, they have to be good neighbors, they have to do the things properly they have to do. The issue is, if they're not a housekeeping unit and we can get some of these ordinances in place, if we do this and get it done, if Newport gets theirs done, we'll copy theirs exactly. But if they don't, we'll be the first ones that ever got it done. It hasn't been done anywhere.
Why is anybody taking the tact of trying to approach it as a business? And
Yes, that's already been done.
And it just fails?
Yeah, it's just dead. It's not a business. You and I know. Don't go to logic. This is the,
They're making $10,000 a month per person.
They get $30,000 a month if they have different places. Yeah, you have coverage. Yeah, no, I know. It's clearly, listen, I'm telling you a legal term. I'm not telling you you're not absolutely right. It's clearly a business. There's no doubt it's a business. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That was John Parks. I live right here, right behind you.
All right.
I'm the last person to have moved on this street. That's how much people love this little street.
You paid the most.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, John.
Coincidentally, I moved from Bowie Street
You did.
because of the issue on Bowie Street.
You brought it over here.
12 years later,
Oh, 12. Okay. Okay.
several hundred of us went to the city council and spoke
Right.
many times in 2001 and 2002. And I'm so happy that it sounds like something's happening because nothing really has happened in the last 12 years from all the times we went to the city council in 2001 and 2000.
Yeah, and your neighbors actually have all the meeting minutes and the notes, and they got them to me, so we're going through it. Part of that helps us with our case with the courts that this is a real problem. It goes on. You have to show it. You have to have findings, and so we have a lot of findings to have it in there. But
One question I
Go
would
ahead.
address to Mike, and I know the city is looking at this from a legal perspective. I think the citizens of our community will really appreciate an open list of where these locations are. I know there's maybe legal issues there, but some simple means of identifying where those licensed, unlicensed properties are posted on a city website would really
yeah,
be appreciated.
I don't think there's an issue. Rick, I don't know if we put these up yet, but I don't think we have any issue with having to put up the addresses of these houses, do we? I know you're not the lawyer, but go.
We were asked about that a couple months ago. Our attorneys advised against it at this point.
Okay.
The ones that are state licensed are already on the state's website, so they can fair game.
So there's
But the other ones,
So there's 32 residential care facilities that are on a state license for the, what is it again? The 80?
Through the ADP, alcohol and drug program.
Alcohol and drugs, there you go. Just go, California.gov, alcohol and drug programs.
I've spoken to Mike about this. I've spent about 3 hours looking and haven't.
You haven't found it yet?
Found it yet. He's going to send me the link.
I don't think there's any problem with us putting a link on our site to link it to a state site. Well, we can do that right away. What I will do is I'll talk to our council again and see what the issue is of these houses. Reason being, this is our list. We're like 99% sure all these houses are on here, but this is not like there's no license they get. This is like we're out knocking on doors figuring it out. You see 6 bikes in the front yard, you start to figure out what's going on there. Neighbors tell us. But there's no facts that that's what this is over here. You also not only have the disabilities issue in there, you also have HIPAA, which is the, tell me what HIPAA is again, Privacy Act for people's medical records and all that. One of the things that we're looking at, the lawyers are shooting us down on it, is having people register if you're in one of these homes. And the simple logic of it is you have a single family house with a family, and at the other end of the spectrum you have a motel. Our police officers can go to a motel and find out who's in there. Somewhere in between is a place that nobody has a connection together. They don't pick who their roommates are. They're there staying and they're coming and going like a motel in some ways.
Well, that was my question. Could I operate a boarding house out of, rent out every room? Is that legal? Is that legal?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Isn't there a code though, up to the 6?
Up to 6, right.
And he's in a home.
Right. Up to 6 people, you can. And the fire codes never work, because the fire codes, I think it was like one person per 70 square feet. You can put a ton of people in a house.
Is it an easier ordinance to pass that they at least have to register prior to occupying these places?
Who's registering the property?
The owner of the facility, or
Yeah.
whoever's running the facility. Just
Yeah.
make them register, so at least somebody that wants to rent that house knows that
Right.
across the street there's 9 of these other
Right.
units. And then everybody kind of goes,
You know what? We'll look at that and see if we can. I'm thinking, because we went to some basic stuff of just going to every one of these homes, because when you knock on their door, they don't want to have a problem.
Right, but
And so they let us check things out and all that, but we'd like to just say, will you let us do an inspection to make sure there's 6 people here or whatever?
Because the story that a couple of you guys have heard is that house, again, John's the last person, that house just went up for rent a couple weeks ago.
Right.
And I don't know if Tom showed up, the realtor, but the
She's
story.
right here, the one who's renting it.
I know that, but the realtor told me, and I'm not sure that she knows the story, that he got multiple calls from an agency that wanted to use it as a home.
Right.
And he was offered above value, $400 a month above value, paid in advance 2 years. So basically a $100,000 check, here you go, give me the house. Now, luckily for us, those people, Roy and Marjorie, who lived there, had owned the house in '65. She said, "I'm not doing that to my neighbors." But there's a lot of other people in the neighborhood that would say,
just do it in a
"Give me
second."
the 100 grand. I'm gonna be living.
Or they sell the house and someone buys it and does it. Yeah.
But forget buying it. At least
Right.
if you buy it, you got an escrow protection, and you've got another means to at least find some licensing. We're talking about renting. We're talking about
Right.
something that happens in 15 minutes.
Right.
The next thing you know, we're living across the street from a house that nobody had any knowledge of, and everybody's house is for sale, and the values have gone through the floor. They should at least have to register.
Okay, well,
what their
I mean,
intent is.
I agree, but they don't have. They don't have to, and we
That
can.
might be an
And we
easier
can't.
fight to fight.
I'm not saying it's not an easier fight to fight. I'm saying I don't think we can pass an ordinance to do that. Understand that the people that own these homes and the businesses meet on a weekly basis. They have an organization, an association. They know all their legal rules. We'd be at a TRO in 10 seconds to say, I'm buying a house or I'm renting a house as a group, and you're telling me that I can't do that. I have to register. Do you have to register? Does somebody have to register? Why do I have to register?
I can't build a fence without getting a variance from the city that costs me $3,500.
Yeah, I'm not.
And all of a sudden I
Yeah.
can run a business that makes me 350 grand a year.
I
without doing
don't
anything.
disagree. I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
And sexual predators, they have to register. They have to say, "Hey, I'm living here." So, I mean, what's the difference?
Well, okay, now we're going down a road that we don't want to go down. They are not sexual predators. I hear you. I hear you. I'm just saying. We got to watch our languaging because it's really important that people don't come back and we just say, run people out here with the thing. We can't do that. The questions you're asking, trust me, we've all asked them. We've gone through it 1,000 times. It seems so obvious. How can you run a business and do this? It shouldn't be fair. One second, right here. But the fact of the matter is, you can't. It's ADA, it's federal, and you can't do it. So we got to find impacts of what they do, and then we can get there. If we could just get people to register, we'd do it tomorrow and get it done. Go over here, and then I'll come back over here.
Well, I'm the renter, and you kid on the block, and I had to sign a contract.
Right.
It was a very, very detailed contract. Now, I'm being held to a standard so that the neighborhood doesn't suffer because I and my disabled sibling don't do something inappropriate.
Right.
Why am I being discriminated against to have to do that, and they don't?
No, you're not being
Yes,
discriminated.
I am. Yes, I am.
Okay, okay. You're making an agreement with a property owner to do something. The person that buys that property or owns that property will make an agreement to let them do what they want to do. So the city is not telling you what's in your lease agreement. The property owner is. Go ahead.
The police are going to come and hold me accountable.
Correct, and if we have impacts, we can do that. That part we can do. But there's so much in this. You want to do more than just having fines and stuff. We want to put speed bumps and roadblocks in the way. So number one, they don't come here, and number two, they don't want to keep on coming here. And some people think, maybe I'll go to a different city. I don't want to have that kind of business here.
But what you're not doing is holding them accountable. That's an issue that is not being addressed.
I agree completely. I completely agree. Yeah, and if we had the courts to do it, we're going to. Over here.
I just want to know, we have a few of our neighbors here on Abbey Way. We have a
Yeah.
house next to us that is not turned into an official group home yet. An owner bought it, but there is a tremendous amount of illegal activity going on.
Yeah, I've had 10 phone calls on Abbey Way in the last 5 days. In fact, I can't remember the first person who told me. It's a friend, and he just said, we got a woman next door with her kid. We've got people that I drove by when they're gutting the house. I'm thinking, oh, they're fixing up this house, and then I go by and it's still kind of the same. Then when somebody told me, I drive by, I see people working their front yard, not exactly what you want to have in your neighborhood, kind of like the Sons of Anarchy. What's that TV show? So it's an issue, and it is on Abbey Way over there. We're watching it closely, and we're trying to get some of these ordinances through. You know what house we're talking about, Lieutenant? It's on the corner of Irvine and Abbey Way. On the yeah, you can't miss it.
No, I live right next door to it. And we live across.
Oh, you're the one next door.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
One of your friends called me.
I'm basically sharing a home with them because they've taken down
The fence down.
The fence
I
down.
know.
So I have a backyard sharing with them, and I have witnessed myself them shooting heroin, domestic violence, multiple people coming in the house all night long, all day long. I come
Right.
home to park cars on my grass, trash in my yard, needles in the backyard, in the alley. It is out of control.
Yeah.
And I want to know, this has nothing to do with the legalized protection group
No.
home. This is nonsense.
And I understand, but I don't tell me that we've had police officers already over there.
Sleeping in the RV.
We've had a bunch of times, right?
And the RV is back apparently now. They don't leave it there overnight. So where do we, and if I told you my property tax bill,
Right.
I'll tell you right now, if my house gets devalued, are you guys going to lower my property taxes?
Okay,
Absolutely
okay.
not. So
This
that's
is
why I want
okay. Hold on. This is your city. We don't handle your property taxes. We're here to try to solve it. But I'm serious. I'm serious. No, hold on. I hear you. I know. I hear you.
So I
And-
live across the street.
right.
I'm in the green two-story. Mike, you were amazingly helpful. So logically, I get under ADA. So my questions to you are simply this. If you're telling me that the feds basically tied our hands, I understand that. It's not fair. That's life, okay? Fines. How do we get through city council? What's the legal process to say, okay, $220 when you're making $1,000 a week or something
Right.
with one person is nothing. How do we get that raised to $1,000? That RV's back
Right.
with the homeless people living in
So
it,
I
finding needles in the
I
yard?
need you at the city council meeting.
We'll be there.
Okay, because I've already said exactly what you said. You said $100,000, and you're probably correct. The most by state law we can find is $1,000, but we can do it every day, and we can do it for multiple things. So you can have 3, 4, 5,000 bill every single day. When I say that figure, I'm attacked. Now I look at it from exactly what you said and you said. If they can make $20,000 a month, why would they care if they have a $200 fine?
Liquor store
Right.
or a video that sells porn within a certain distance from
Right.
an elementary school. I see Mariners Elementary School from my house. This guy sees it from his house.
Okay, so if you had
Children walk by.
Okay, but you talk about the issue of a group home, or you talk about what's happening at that house?
I'm talking about the issue of that house. He's intending to turn it into
Okay.
a group home, but it's not legal yet.
Right. Well, they're never legal. I mean, they just can have them, group
He
homes.
can rent it out to 6 people and charge $1 million.
Right.
And our hands are
Right.
tied.
And there's already more than 6 people. And I know that you said that the sexual predator situation
Right.
doesn't exist, but we have single mothers. My husband travels all the time. I am in a position now where my safety is completely up in the air.
Yeah.
I have to make sure that when I walk through my door in my house that I'm not going to be accompanied by a visitor. You know what I mean? Every time I open my garage,
Yeah.
I have to
Yeah.
watch it close completely so nobody comes in my house.
I completely agree with you. We have tools going forward in place to what we can do. As the house is right now, and the lieutenant's here and all this, we can give it a lot of special attention. And we'll give it a lot of special attention.
They have been, so thank
So,
you for it. That's
and they've been
fine.
out there.
Keep it up.
But that's not a group home yet. That's another problem. That's just a crazy drug house. It's a drug house. Yeah, it's a drug house.
A group home is a nebulous term.
Weiss.
It's a nebulous
Right.
term because the guy can move in, he can have up to 6 beds, and it's like, we can
Dr.
call it,
Liar.
you know, Mr. Omar's Hotel for Cats. It doesn't matter. He's got people there. I have no problem with substance abuse and the whole issue.
Right.
My church is involved in that. I have no problem. I have friends who manage group homes, but they are group homes where people are registered. You know who is there. You know why they're there. The cops can walk in anytime and they're accountable for it. This thing, when you tell me, I don't know, 64 with 169 beds, of just because some guy wanted to feel like it, I have a problem that a city, an independent entity, cannot say, okay, Levitt, you're going to be here, but I can't put a liquor store. The restaurant on 17th can't apply for a liquor license without wasting money to mail me. I could care less, okay, if they're serving wine at a restaurant. But we can't, as a city, make any kind of ordinance or whatever the terminology is to say, hey, you can't have a recovery home, a casual recovery home
That's what they
within
put it under.
a quarter of a mile or whatever it is. The issue for me is not so much that human beings can have a place to go. You don't put it in front of an elementary school, and you don't
Okay.
put it in a single-family residence neighborhood.
Okay.
Why can't we do that?
Okay, so
I'm sorry, I'm just really.
I know, I agree.
I will accept it now.
Yeah, that's okay. Listen, folks, we need to, it's fine.
Safety issue.
And I completely agree. I've got my 3 little girls here. I completely agree. But under,
Sober group homes.
you're actually a different issue than the group homes are. Because right now, you're in a transition where it stays. But it will be. Newport Beach has spent $3.5 million. They have gone down every road they can, and they will probably lose, very likely lose their ordinance they have. They've had some wins, but they'll probably lose. If it could be done with 3.5 or 5 or 10, we just do it. Jeff Lolloway, Mayor Pro Tem of Irvine's calling me saying, Jim, what are you doing? We're getting them all over in Irvine now. So as Newport puts pressure, we put pressure. These people don't want to go back to the Midwest. They want to have their recovery homes here. So it's a problem. But the fact that you guys know it and understand the distinctions of it helps us a lot. This industry spends a lot of money in Sacramento to get laws passed that totally tie our hands, completely tie our hands. And it's all wrapped in the ADA issues and all those issues over there. And again, and I appreciate the fact that you appreciate it. I mean, I'm not saying that. But the frustration level when I heard your story, told to me the other morning, this woman's got her kid there, the fence is down. This is craziness.
And the view is directly to the elementary school. It's disturbing. Yeah.
Right.
There's Ensign, Newport Harbor, and
I know the street well.
And kids are walking by that. The needle fact alone is
Yeah.
so scary, and
My kids don't play in the backyard anymore.
no,
Yeah.
you cannot let your kids do anything.
So we're gonna make sure they get some special attention on that over there, and we'll just kind of. I'm not gonna tell you everything we're gonna do.
Is the advice to call?
Oh, over here. The advice is absolutely to call every time because we need records all the time when we go up do things. Always call.
The more of these calls for service that we generate, the better grasp we can have on the issue. And we are aware of that house. And in fact, I just sparked a memory. I sent some guys over there right now as we're speaking. We're
The
going
white
to
truck is back with the people you arrested the other day.
The what?
The white truck, the people they arrested on the 29th.
They're back.
They're back.
We try to make
As
people
I-
go away permanently, and sometimes they come back.
As I walk to the meeting, they're
Yeah.
sitting in their trucks. The RV's back.
Yeah, the other
If
night,
there's one thing, if there's one thing I can say that we
Yeah.
do pretty good in Costa Mesa, with our police departments, we get rid of issues like this. Bear in mind, sometimes it takes a little time, but we have a ton of resources. Like the mayor said, we're not going to tell you what we're going to do. We're going to keep out of the bushes. We're going to rappel down from helicopters, but we'll tackle it. And but please, if you have an issue that's pressing, that's occurring right now, that is a threat to public safety or a crime in progress, or you find a needle, give us a call. We'll send somebody out there ASAP. That is a priority in our block.
Yeah, we had a problem on our block. We actually had a guy stabbed and killed. End of a cul-de-sac that I live on, 4 doors down. My wife calls how many times? She's home, she calls, and it's been taken a while because they're selling drugs, they're doing all, and I live in Mesa Verde on the golf course. I mean, it happens. But it's now going away and happening, but that's a completely different situation than these group homes, but it's the same issue.
The reason why we're here is because the rumor has it that he's gonna turn it into.
Sounds to me like you're probably right. Yeah. Over here first, this lady's had her hand up.
So back to the issue at hand here. Under the city attorney, CEO, everything, if you looked at the general plan of Costa Mesa, what are we doing about the planning, zoning, and relation of having a house here and keeping them? If you got to have them, you got 64 of them, we got to have distance.
Okay,
So I
you-
can't have one here and have that house there. Be rented out. Sold or rented to the same thing.
Okay, so let's go back to discrimination for people that have handicaps, okay? You cannot pass a law that say that people that have handicaps have to live so far away from each other. I'm not agreeing with it, I'm just telling, that's what, so anytime you do these, what that's called the buffer zones or whatever, when you say, now if you've got, drugs and all that stuff happening and it's there, that's different than a group home. That's supposed to happen there. But if you have it there, that's just a crime and you go after it. It's next door to a school or anywhere. You just go after it from there.
We're going to get ahead of the game because there's a cahoots. I talked to the same realtor, but I talked to a couple others. I even showed this house, and I'm a licensed realtor.
Yeah.
I showed that house to people, and with a realtor there representing them, and I was appalled at what came out of the house. Absolutely appalled. So there's a cahoots going on in here, and either get one of these neighborhood meetings with the Car Association for Costa Mesa and find out what's going on, because there is a cahoots going on in here, and these realtors are tied in. They know it, and these houses are going to sell one by one. If I had a full price offer, and I'm not moving, but
Right.
Well,
but
I think the
why
realtor,
wouldn't I?
Kathy's right behind you. You
Yeah,
shut
so
up.
you're absolutely incorrect. You did not show that house. I'm not a girl.
I didn't say
okay.
someone else called me.
And I was definitely approached by a lot of realtors who wanted to have this as a rehab house, and the owner of this house said absolutely not. So, okay.
I'm the oldest owner on this block, guys. And I was born and raised right here. I was born on Holiday in Centella. I've lived here. I know the city inside and out and Newport inside and out. Very protective of this cul-de-sac here. I fought for 10 years with Ernesto just to get a slurry seal done, and it was done crappy. 3 years ago. Thank you. Sorry, mind you're a great guy.
We did a lot of slurry sealing just recently.
Yes, the traffic
So,
sinkhole that they
you
had
know,
to fix about 6 months ago that's
You
still
guys,
isn't
the
right.
city doesn't even know this street exists here half the time. Half you guys drove up tonight and went, wow, look at this nice little cul-de-sac. Okay, we're the last one in Costa Mesa. That street was county, not more than 2 years ago. The 3 houses down there were county and annexed to Newport. If we were smart, we were all built as Vista Bayou, we would have done the same. We've gotten out of here, but in relation, I mean, that house has been here 6 weeks, okay? So far, it hasn't been a problem or an issue, so we're all just trying
Well,
to be
wait a
educated,
second.
except you've had
I've
an
had
inconvenience
two-
at your
two.
door, except my other.
Knocking on your door.
Mine on the same address as that.
We went last night and like introduced ourselves over there, okay? Trying to kind of see what was going on, but also trying to be neighborly and trying to understand. And so everybody's here to understand and get a handle on what the city's doing. What I've heard from Bowie Street meeting to the city council meeting to tonight is you're moving forward, but you're moving slow, okay? And you've been waiting for Newport Beach to get their act and get it done and see what happens.
No, let me clarify that. We
You
were,
said it. You're
I
saying
said,
it.
we were waiting for Newport Beach. That was like a month and a half ago. We quit waiting for Newport Beach and went in. We met with their attorneys 3 months ago.
Houses are here. 3 months ago, you guys are way behind the
Okay.
eight ball. This is happening
Okay.
daily under your nose.
We're going to put together a committee. I'll have you in charge. And when you figure out, listen, you think I'm disagreeing with you. I'm not. I am telling you, I have a wife and a family and kids and a business, and I was in meetings all days with lawyers. I was with them yesterday. They're on the phone every single day. We walk all the way through. We're going to get sued. We would like to win some of these. I mean, you just lose these things. No other city's won this yet.
You gotta be able though, you can't stack an apartment on apartment on apartment on apartment. I mean, I've looked at enough city plans and general plans. I mean, I can't say for Costa Mesa, but Newport Beach is out of their open free zone parking, the park. They're out of compliance. I mean, Banning Ranch is gonna be a huge thing when it goes. So down the road. So there has to be something somewhere that somebody can look at in the plan that cannot stack these like one on top of the other.
Right.
Now the hard part is you're not going to know who sold their house to them until after the fact.
Right.
You know, that house is under a private entity name, a single owner name. So you wouldn't have known until we spoke up and said we have one in our back door.
That's true. We find out usually from neighbors in there. One of the things, so here's a couple things that work in some of the things that we do. So you can't restrict certain things. There's certain laws you can't go through. You don't have to roll out a carpet either to make it easy for people. You'll find a lot of the structure of how these houses work is there's people that operate them and people that buy them as investors and get double, triple the rent to just own it as an investor. You know, and they might live in Costa Mesa, they live in Newport Beach. Right, Newport Beach. You know, this issue, you talk about when I first got involved in this issue. I got involved in this issue when I was on the Planning Commission, okay? And we saw houses in North Costa Mesa, 1,200 square foot, 3-bedroom houses, getting 2 bedrooms added to them to make it 5 bedrooms of the house. And that was it, just 2 bedrooms. Backyard taken up, all done legal. Well, I know that's going to be a group home, okay? And I know that this person already owns 3 houses. They would come to the meeting with their Newport address saying, well, I'm getting a house for when I retire to have some extra rooms and whatever. And I knew immediately that was wrong. When I went forward to find, again, look at the impacts, I came up with an ordinance that said that if you want to add a 5th bedroom, not you existing already have it, but if you add a 5th bedroom, you have to add a 3rd car garage. That's impacts. You are going to have more people, more parking. You got to add another garage. It works legally. It's fine. The city hall was flooded with people because there's politics involved here. Remember, I have other issues with the city. We're trying to finances to get handled. So how do you attack Righeimer? Just go at them. And people were lined up, and their whole big issue was, you're making me get rid of my 5th bedroom. You're telling me I can't have I already have a 5th. I mean, all this. It was just a bunch of lies. What we said was, if you add a 5th bedroom. Now, you can also go to a planning commission and say, I'd like to have a minor deviation, and you show up with 6 kids, we go, yeah, put your 5th bedroom in. But usually when people are adding a 5th bedroom, they're making their nice house, and they don't care about adding a 3rd car garage. but they want to do it cheap, then you know it's a group home. And so we had in there. So that was 5 years ago. So I've been on this issue the best way that I could. What we're finding is that there aren't tools out there. We are going to put some things in place. Rick was in the meeting today. I got shot down on a bunch of ideas. Some ideas were less shot down, and we're going to go down the road to do them in there. But it is.
Are they applying for CUPs when they have?
They don't need a CUP. They do not need a CUP.
If the occupancy is exceeding that.
They don't. They don't. Yeah. So what they do is, what?
Your own laws for the city of Costa
If you want to add a seventh.
You gotta have a
Court
CUP.
referred.
Right. If you need, but we don't give a CUP out. We won't give somebody a CUP for a 7th bed.
But you're not allowed to have court referred people.
Say it again?
In R1 neighborhood.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to have court referral. These are the laws of the city of Costa Mesa. You cannot have court referred people in R1 neighborhoods. So
Rick, go ahead. Say that again.
You're right. But
I'm
most
right.
Most of the people that we're talking about are not corporate firms.
that's, well, a lot of them are. Example, Lindsay
Do we know
Lohan.
if we don't have a
They're
register?
court
Do we
referred.
really know because we don't have?
We don't, and that's why I want to have a registration program that says everybody that comes in, set up a website, go in there, do it. I'm getting beat up by legal saying now you're going to go ahead and people that have I can't hear. Just hold on, because I want people to hear you. Just, on Tulip, is that 185 Tulip? Is that the one? Tulip Street? I think it's 175. Yeah, I know.
Two more at the end of the block, so that's a little short block.
Right.
Down the Lake Bowie.
No, we did a ride along, and I saw that house already.
My son used to live at Bowie. He moved.
So what they do also is they'll take in an R2 area, they'll take 3 apartments, and they'll put 6 in every single apartment. I agree. We're looking at some issues with regards to fire hazards. We think we've already gone through it, and they've fixed those problems, so we can't do that. But as it is right now, that's not there. In the new ordinance that we're looking at, when we talked to council today, one of the things they talked about was, are they playing games with the license, where they have a license at one address, but then they show 3 units, so the 3 units are allowed to have 6 in every unit, but they have 1 license. So we're going to look at that. That'll be in the ordinance in there. So there's things in there. James, and then over here.
Thank you. I have an actual question. As far as the calls for service, now I realize there's probably a huge variable depending on what the call happens to render, but is there any kind of a credible root mean calls for service that you could say, okay, it's just a general one without a lot of side issues, murders and things like that? And if there is that what percentage of that is going to be hypothetically charged back to the establishment owner? And if there is an amount or a percentage in mind, where is that money going to go?
Okay, so if you're talking about motels,
Correct.
yeah. So the question that he talked about the ordinance we're looking at for excess police and fire services, that you start paying a fee. We have some rough numbers on what that number will probably look like. We have to make a finding, and so we have to figure out exactly what it costs to do a call on average, so we can say this is what it costs. And then, what? That number we don't have yet. That number we don't have yet. When we do the first ordinance, we will not have that number yet either. When we read the second ordinance, we will attach the fines that'll be there with the findings for how much we're allowed to, fine for that excess amount.
And ultimately, where would that money go?
City general fund.
Just general fund?
Yeah. I know the police department wants it all, but we're already paying $43 million for them. They got to pay back a little bit. Okay, who was over here first? Over here.
Couple things. One, there were just recently 8 applications made to the Sheriff's Department for these homes. 7 of them were for Costa Mesa. If the applications are in process, and somebody's got to put the stamp on it.
Yeah, what application would that be? Do you know what that would be for? I don't know anything about.
To have some of these group homes that's registered through the Sheriff's Department. Is that correct?
Do we have? If you, what do we?
7 of them are for Costa Mesa.
Hold. I'm not disagreeing with you. I don't know. I don't know where. What you know what you're talking about?
Sheriffs run a certification program, and they can come in and certify houses, and then I guess
I've even called their department. They don't even really know what they're certifying for, but they will come in and give the certification. They recently moved to Anaheim, and it's been changed, and now there's only 8. When I called them last, there was only 8 on that list, and 7 of them are in Costa Mesa.
And what is it? We know what it's for?
It's a sheriff certification, and then I think they can apply for grants and things like that with that certification.
How special.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to look at, thank you. Thank you.
104 goes up to 111.
No,
And,
there's
I mean,
not any additional. These are already current sober living facilities that also have a sheriff's certification. They're just getting better legally.
Yeah.
Impact.
There.
Saying, hey, we've got a certification.
Yes, and I go fight it, they'll say this, I got certified by the sheriff. Please.
One of the reasons why they're probably being certified is so that they can be, as she mentioned, referrals for people on probation and that sort of thing. That's probably why they're doing it that way.
Okay, but we don't approve the house. We don't have a way to approve it or disapprove it. We're looking at laws to look at those impacts and see how we can solve it. And again, you know what? There's a lot of nice places in Southern California to be. Well, the point of it is we aren't here for everybody. So it needs to be spread out. It can't be just our city over here, but right now, we're getting the biggest chunk of
It
it.
does need to be spread out, but everybody here is telling a story. We all live here, earn the right to be here by paying for what we have.
Right.
And it's being way taken advantage of here. It's
Completely agree.
Go over to Bowie Street.
I have.
The realtors that are here. What happened to the prices of the homes over there? I mean, are they still up where they should be? Or have they gone down?
Of course they've gone down.
Yeah, they'd have to go down.
So there goes the neighborhood. How about Willow Street with 5 of these homes recently? Is that correct?
I don't know about Willow Street. Is there a 5?
Part of our city.
Jim, those are
What?
county.
Oh, the county ones?
5
Okay.
homes in one neighborhood. What's going to happen to the values of the neighbors? Of the homes?
Oh, and that's my point when people say don't spend any legal fees. I need you to back us up and say spend whatever it takes. It's tens of millions of dollars in value going down in real estate. No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Is anybody supervising in these homes? In other words, when there's 6 guys living in the house, I've talked to 2 people today who have a home next to them. The stuff that goes on, I mean, are these people supervised or are they just having fun? I mean,
Yeah.
They're typically supervised by graduates of the house. They are.
Yeah.
Through the ranks.
So,
are those guys answerable to anybody? Because
Okay,
the things that are happening in these neighborhoods, I mean, I've got stories that,
yeah, no, I
everybody's
agree.
telling
I
me
agree.
here that are
I agree.
just
One of the things that we're looking at in this registration of houses, if we can get that far, is literally having a list of questions, and staff's looked at it, and I've seen it, and it has all sorts of things. What do you do when someone has a heart attack? How do you do the CPR? And it goes through a whole list of questions, and it's going to be pretty thick. And if we can get to the point where we say that you cross this line, and again, it's a very thin line, you need to fill out this application and be in here. The application may be such, you just say, gosh, I don't want to sign this. You're asking me all these questions about what I'm going to do. If you're an investor in a house to lease to somebody, you're like, I don't want to be involved in this. Sometimes what you just want to do is make it that it's not the most comfortable place to be, that you want to go do your business somewhere else and spread it out.
It's a hungry economy and people are taking jobs regardless of whether those types of questions are being posed.
Oh no, I agree. But if there's nothing, if there's not even a speed bump, they're just going to rush in. We have got to do something to slow it down, to say, you know what, maybe you want to go somewhere else and look some other place. We've had our fill, and then from that point go down. We have like the issues we're talking about the motels. We have some motels that previous councils have allowed these motels to go up to 40% of the people can be long-term stay.
Yeah, but excuse me, does that not mean Costa Mesa's low income? Is that why they're long-term stay, those people?
People try to use that as, I know, people try to use that count and that number in there.
Yeah.
I was on the Housing Commission for 14 years in the county, okay? I know all about affordable housing. We need to help people that we can. You do not put kids and children in 180 square feet with next-door neighbors shooting up needles and prostitution. That's just wrong. And so for our city, to previous people on the council who think that's a good place to put affordable housing is just wrong. And we should never go to that level. So it's ridiculous. Kids should not be in that stuff. So. But so what we're looking at now is we're going to be pulling to it. We just did $40,000 in fines on the motor inn the other day. We're going to pull their CUP because they violated it. Now you can't pull a CUP. They violated it, and we're going to have them bring that number down to what the city's allowed, which is 25% long-term stay, and then we're changing the city's code to say the long-term stay drops down to 10 or 5% long-term stay. Now, we're not going to kick anybody out. Just understand that right up front. We're not going to throw people out in the street. But as people move out and they were long-term stay, that's one more unit that's not long-term stay. And it'll take a little while. We don't want to be pushing people out in the street and poor people. But when you move out, we're not going to let that person rent that place back out again as a long-term stay. It's a horrible situation. Attrition, exactly. Adios.
Final question in terms of what we can do from a political standpoint. You say to come and attend the city council meetings. How do we get energized more than our little block or Bowie Street or whatever? We need to get a big portion of residents Costa Mesa behind us.
So Tristan's not here, who works on my staff. What I need somebody in the neighborhood to do is collect emails. If somebody just get a sheet of paper handed around now, I'll get you on the list of all the different groups that we have to know who those are and notify you when we're going to have city council meetings on this issue. Because I know, that's not your life to go check the city council website all the time. But we want to get that information out to you so you can show up, come to the microphone, tell them what the issue is, and to help educate all the council. This is a problem and you really care, and you're willing to put up with some issues that we have in the city and some problems if we can get these codes in place. That we're going to have a nuisance ordinance. If you don't paint your house and it's all peeling, we give you a fix-it ticket actually, and there's no fine if you fix it. We don't give you a fix-it ticket if you have 8 people in your house in a group home and you're supposed to have 6. We will have it that we can fine $1,000 per person per day on that.
A resident action committee, something like that.
Right.
Is there a committee yet? Is there?
No. I mean, I've been collecting at the Bowie. We collected a bunch of names and numbers in there. I had my one person was supposed to come here. Tristan didn't. He would have done that normally, just handed the thing around. If somebody could just do that right now, if anybody's got anything to write on. Mike,
has that list.
There you go, Mike. Just on the back of that sheet. Yeah, there you go. Put a pen on there. And let's go ahead and get those out there, and we'll make sure on the list. But the next meeting, did I say what day already? The 17th, did I say? The 17th, staff says we'll at least have 1, if not 2 of the ordinances ready. And let me tell you something, when you read these nuisance ordinances and you realize that these existing laws we have in the city, don't start arguing with me with laws that were there 25 years ago, like you can't have a certain, whatever. That's what happens. We go to change a little piece of it, ordinance, to get stronger to handle an issue, and then people start yelling about parts of the ordinance that were there for 25 years. We got to move forward on this stuff here. Please.
What is the source of the money? These patients that are paying exorbitant amounts of money. If a person's on rehab, one would expect he'd be hard up. Where would he get all that money?
Yeah, so there's all sorts of ways it happens. It started in the beginning with people's insurance policies, and you could have a policy up to $30,000 or $50,000, and people have these programs, and then the industry started out of that. Many insurance policies have dropped that now, so they don't have it. But if you work at a large corporation that has the policies, you can have it, and one of your dependents can go. I think for people that have seen what happens to loved ones in this situation, people will spend any amount of money to clean up their kid. They just will. And they'll lose their house, and I've seen it. It's horrible.
And then
so
we have to go back to Ohio.
Well, and you'd like to get them back to Ohio, but folks, it's pretty nice there. Check out the weather. It's hard to leave here. Yeah. One more question over here, then I'll go back to you. Anybody else here? Okay.
Jim, if they're on disability, they're getting SSI, then you taxpayers are paying their rent.
We were just looking into some stuff today where there is the state association that does these group homes is getting funding for people on disability into these group homes for treatment, and I think you just saw it was on just a few weeks ago where the state came in and said you're not even giving treatment, so people aren't even showing up for the meetings. They're doing it, and they're charging the state for it, $90-100 million. It's a big industry. It's big bucks. They've got money to fight us, and they will fight us in there. We need support from the community. Go ahead.
Do group homes not fall under the classification of a boarding house?
No, they're just handicapped people in a home. Yeah. Yeah. Even though they're making tons of money. Yeah.
Do they have to register if there is like a registered sex offender or anything?
No, sex offenders completely different. And let's not mix up group homes with sex offenders. Not that they couldn't be, but if they're a sex offender, well, here's one of the issues that we have. People that have drug issues usually have problems with the law. So it's not unusual you'll have a person in the house that, because of drugs, has probation issues and those kind of things. The reason I've seen a lot of these homes recently is I go on ride-alongs, and because of what the state's doing with realignment, moving people out of the prisons to the county, and then they're putting people on probation. So what they always say is, the probations are people that, don't do, my girls are here, so I won't say it, but certain crimes, right? And so they'll give you probation if you didn't do those crimes. What they don't tell you is your previous offense might have been those crimes. And so we'll have people in our city in these homes, but because they're on probation, they've given up their Fourth Amendment to search, and immediately we can go right in the house, we can look at them, and that's what we say. You see 5 bikes out here, and so what our police department's been doing is we're doing, I call it bed check. You know what? If you're straight and you're clean and you've done your debt to society, great. But if you're breaking rules, you are not going to live in this city. We're gonna bust you and you're going to go. The last time I went on it, and I'm going to get these numbers wrong, but I think we went to about 20 houses, hitting them all. We had a couple cars out there, and we ended up, locking up 11 or 12, arresting them and taking them away that night. And we're going to continue to do that because we're not going to let the state dump their budget problem on our city. It costs us money, but we're just going to do it.
Hey, when we as residents have to put up and live next to these places, when you see something going on, and Mike, you said have everybody call. Should we really? You want 1,000 phone calls to your phone?
Yeah.
To your phone, to the police department? Who are we supposed to call?
Yeah, well,
Because everybody on the block calling, as soon as your phone's hung up, the next one's going to be ringing. Does it help?
It helps to it helps.
Bugging you guys?
No. Listen. First off.
I'm serious. I want to fix it.
Obviously, 10,000 calls in 6 minutes won't solve anything. But
that's why I'm
if you don't think
don't
think somebody hasn't called, just call.
Well, that's what
If we
I'm
get
saying.
2 or 3 calls over an
I'm
issue,
serious. I've even stopped petitions a couple times.
Yeah.
Trying to be cool.
Call.
I'm an
Just-
alcoholic addict too. Thinking maybe these people will be cool. Guess what? They don't care about you, your home, your kids.
Right.
It's sick. It's sick.
well,
Going
drugs
on
are
now,
bad.
it's screwed up.
Drugs are a problem. Big problem.
So we're supposed to call, and what? The best thing would be just to show up at the meetings and force?
No. You call if you see something happening that's an impact that they're doing. Once this ordinance gets passed, you see groups of people smoking
5:30
together.
in the morning, and the cigarette smokes billowing in the
That's it. In the new ordinance we have that cigarette smoke.
6 of them, all
Right.
in the front yard next door.
Right.
Hey, really loud. Hey, fuck this. Come on.
No. Yeah. And that
I haven't because I don't want. I don't like.
yeah.
doing that.
No. That is on our new nuisance ordinance. Large groups of people. Yeah. Groups of people smoking. They call it joke and smoke, and everybody's smoking cigarettes and joking and laughing and being loud. You do that, that's a nuisance ordinance. We're going to have fines for that. That's going to be expensive. Listen, you start paying $1,000 fine for a few people. All the houses aren't $30,000 a person. Some are a lot less, obviously. But they're still tens of thousands of dollars a month in revenue. You start getting fines of $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month, you may want to go to a different business. You may want to do something different. We'd like you to go into a different business if you're not going to be a good neighbor. So, over here.
Have a bunch of disincentives, such and such ordinance. So we've got the nuisance ordinance that you're talking about.
That's one
Is that
way.
on the 17th? Just be.
The nuisance ordinance is the 17th.
Is that being introduced or passed, or I?
That'll be so. How an ordinance happens, you have to read. Okay.
Sorry.
I didn't know it either until I got elected. Ordinances have to be read twice. So basically, 2 city council meetings. So they'll do the first reading, and we have a public comments. People make public comments, say why you want it. Everybody come to the microphone, great. Sometimes people just say, ditto, I just heard, I agree with so-and-so, so we can get the meeting to move along. And you just say, this is why, and then we go ahead and do the first reading. In this case, because I want to get it on, is we going to be pushed off to another week? I said, I've done, 4, neighborhood meetings on this thing. I'm not waiting any more time. So we're going to have the ordinance to read. We will not have some of the fine numbers, if the cost of the fines and the findings for that to the second reading. and that'll be a separate resolutions for the fines, and that'll happen the second time. But if we get it through the first time, the second one will happen. We're going to have a study session on October 8th to go over the other ordinance for the actual group homes.
So what would help us, I'm sorry,
That's good.
the Tristan Kid or whoever's supposed to be here, the people who are on that email, which we've all put our names
Yeah,
on,
yeah.
as you guys are proposing things, they can absolutely make sure to let us know there is a proposal coming on this date. You let us know, we will mobilize as many people as we can to get there. If that's what you want and that's what it takes, and legally we can't deal with something of ADA, we can't change it, fine. I need disincentives on the books that the police can then follow through on.
Correct.
As you come up with more, let us
And we
know.
will come up with more, and some of these things we'll lose in court. Some will win, and we'll just keep on going their own. I got a beautiful little 7-year-old girl here wants to ask her daddy a question.
How many more minutes until it's over?
That's a plan. You told her where to get started.
You know, the 7-year-old runs the house. She's the youngest in there. Yeah. She said, Dad, Mom had a meeting, so they got the 3 girls. I'm taking them to dinner. So I know, but they come. They're really great. I appreciate it. Thank you, honey. What? There you go. Any other questions out there at all? Okay, I've got a few cards on me. It's my cell phone. Don't hesitate to call it. People call me all the time. I answer it in there. Thank you so much for being out here. We need your support on the council to make sure everybody keeps on going the right direction. And remember, we don't want to be Irvine. We just want to have some tools. Okay, thank you.